So, uh, so wait. Before that, I will introduce you with student.
Okay, fine.
Very good afternoon to one and all present here. I, Jinkal Patel, on behalf of Idus Shomani Institute of Technology and Research Center, KSV University, welcomes you to this technical event of online lecture series, TechWignite 2021, which is organized by VSITR. So, commencing with our session, I would like to briefly introduce you with expert Dr. Bhavesh Borisanya, sir. Sir, you are currently serving as an assistant professor in Information and Technology Department of Shantilal Shah Engineering College, Bhavnagar. You have been in academic field since 9 years. You have completed PhD in the field of design and implementation of virtual machine introspection based security framework for cloud from SVNIT Surat in 2016. Your areas of interest includes cloud computing, cloud security, and cyber security. Sir, you have published many research papers in national and international conferences and journals, and you have delivered various lectures at various organizations. Sir, we feel privileged in inviting you to motivate our students with your knowledge and experience. We welcome you, sir. Sir, if the students have any query during the session, they will put in chat box. Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
fine. Yeah, thank you very much for the next introduction. Am I audible, right?
Yes, sir, you are completely audible.
Fine. I'm sharing my screen now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Is the screen visible?
Yes.
Fine. So if possible, if you are able to see the questions in the chat box, you just interrupt me and let me know, because while I'm sharing the screen, I might not be able to see the questions in the chat box. Hello.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. No problem. You can cover it at the end of session.
Fine, no issue. If it is also okay, I am also okay if somebody will interrupt me and ask the question, right? They can interrupt and make the session effective. There is no problem in that.
Okay, no issue, sir.
Right.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So before we start, can somebody will tell me, does anybody have any knowledge related to the cloud computing? Any brief knowledge or idea that what is cloud is all about? Hello. Fine. So I guess no. I take it as no, because I might think that probably you are not aware that you are actually utilizing the cloud in your day-to-day life, and you are not aware of it. Fine. So let's try to understand that what is cloud computing and what is the role of virtualization into that cloud computing, and let's try to understand that how it works, right? So the content that I'm going to cover in this particular talk is we try to understand that why we need a cloud, what advantages that it brings to us, so that we can actually utilize its functionality and utilize it in our day-to-day life. And then we try to understand that what is cloud, how cloud computing works, and then we go for the virtualization, right? So this is the agenda of the talk for today. In between, I'll switch over and I'll show you certain videos if possible, and I'll also show you certain platforms where you can actually utilize your cloud, different services that has been provided by the cloud computing. So first question, that why cloud? And generally, uh, we need to understand that why we need it, right? On the first place. For example, if I say that with the use of the cloud, you can actually you can actually host your services. Let's say, for example, web services or email services. So you might ask that, okay, that has already been in place, right? I am utilizing the Gmail. Gmail is nothing but one kind of a cloud service, right? So you might be saying that I can also host on my own place, right? I can host my website, institute website at my server, right? Why I need cloud? Cloud means you are placing the services offshore, right? You are not actually hosting it in your place. Let's say, for example, if I give you the example of electricity, right? Electricity come at your place, right? You are utilizing that electricity at as per your requirement, right? You just switch on the switch, and the electricity will allows you to uh, use your electronic equipments, right? Your bulb, fan, other equipments, right? You just turn it on and electricity will be utilized, and you are just only paying for the amount, the as much as electricity you are actually utilizing. Now if I say that if you wanted to uh, turn on AC in your room, and you are supposed to generate the electricity for turning on that AC. You might be saying that, okay, solar is the option. Fine. But what about if you wanted to run a business, a production manufacturing company with that electricity? It is too much power that is required, and you do not want to bother about that how that electricity has been generated, right? You are just actually take the connection from the GEB, and you just plug it into your production house, and you just utilizing them, right? So that is what the called the utility computing, right? Utility. So what we are doing is we are simply utilizing the power, electricity, and we do not bother about that from where it has been generated. The power line comes to your house, and you are utilizing it, right? You don't bother that whether it has been generated from the water, or whether it has been generated from the nuclear power plant, or whether it has been generated from coal power plant, right? How it has reached to your home, you don't bother about. What is you are interested in, that you need that electricity. What about if same thing is applicable to the computation? Currently, if I wanted to, you are all, I believe that you all are belong to computer science field. So you know that if you wanted to do program, if you wanted to create the programs, if you wanted to run the websites, you need the computer, right? And if you are wanted to run a program which is compute intensive, that is, you need lots of processing power. Nowadays many people are developing the games, right? If you are already aware about, you need a good graphics card for it. What if your laptop or computer does not have that power? Your computer does not have that much processing power or RAM or graphics card with you, right? You need to purchase it, right? But what if I say that the same thing you can actually rent, like we are renting the electricity, you can rent the computing power, right? So that is what is called cloud, right? It is a large pool of resources which is which is there in over the internet, and you are actually just harnessing it power through the internet, and you are just paying only that much that is you are utilizing, right? Hope you are clear with this idea. Okay, so let me show you one video in that case. Let me know if you don't understand any specific thing. Is it audible? Hello.
Yes, sir, it is.
Your company has big ideas. To be as efficient as possible while being as profitable as possible. To reach this goal, your company will need business applications, which are usually very expensive and force you to enter a universe of complexity. In the old days, you needed a data center with security, storage, cooling, and power, as well as servers and storage. Plus, let's not forget development, testing, staging, and production, as well as failover and disaster recovery. Cloud computing is a much easier and affordable way to run your business. Instead of running your apps yourself, they can run in a shared data center you just plug in like a utility service. It's much faster to get started and costs far less. Let's compare Gmail to Microsoft Exchange. With Gmail, you don't need servers and storage, or with Exchange, Gmail costs less because you don't need to pay for all the people in the product, more reliable, and more scalable than the majority of current applications on the market. Why? Upgrades are performed for you automatically, giving your app security and performance enhancements as well as new features. Even the way you pay for cloud apps is different. You don't have to buy servers and hardware anymore. It's all contained in a predictable monthly cost. Finally, cloud apps don't waste your valuable time, allowing you to focus on more important tasks like growing your company. Cloud computing is an easy way to improve your company's bottom line greatly, while allowing you to work from any smartphone or computer anywhere in the world at any time. For more information, please visit our website at www.wesupportthecloud.com.
Yeah. So what we understood from here is that if you have two choices, that one is utilizing the same email server which has been established by the Google, and one which you wanted to host your own email server, right? So which would you prefer? So for the organization, which we can say that if we say that I wanted to invest into my own mail server, in that case, what are the challenges he has to face? First is he requires plenty of storage, and for that it requires the infrastructure, that is computers and the storage. Then he needs a network bandwidth, good network bandwidth for it. Then he also needs to maintain those servers. That is, whenever it's required, they servers, the storage needs to be upgraded, because day by day the storage requirement will be increasing, right? So he needs to increase that storage capacity also. So he has to invest more, right? Also, the maintenance and the reliability is also one of the criteria that he needs to fulfill, right? Reliability means the server should not be down anytime. We are utilizing the Gmail services, and we are plenty reliable on it, right? And we do not bother about that where those emails of mine has been stored at where, right? Place we don't know, location we don't know. But if you are want that same Gmail server to be hosted in my own organization, in my own server, physical servers, it will be difficult to maintain. So the thing is that if you go for your own resources, you need to invest more. Second, you need to maintain it. And third one is you need to upgrade it whenever there is a requirement, right? So cloud option is a bit easy compared to it when it comes to the cost and the reliability, right? So why cloud? There are three scenarios that I would like to talk about. First is a person want to start an IT startup firm with few resources. Let's say from all of you, only someone became the entrepreneur once they will be graduated, and wanted to start a IT firm, which is a startup, and wanted to at the startup you will be having a less fund, right? And there is less investment also that somebody will do into you, because that is a startup, so nobody can predict the futures. So how you can start up, how can you can start your startup with less resources, right? So the usual thing is that rather than investing into the place or investing into the computing resources, you wanted to rent them, right? So you just rent the servers from the cloud, and you just either rent the platform or rent the different kinds of services which has been provided by the cloud, rather than investing and onto those resources. Let's say, for example, if I want two servers with 16 core processors and 100 GB of RAM, right? I should not have to invest into those resources. Rather than that, I just buy the services from the cloud. That will be more cheaper, right? Because after, let's say, if even if you are just investing into those servers needs to be upgraded after your business or startup has been successful. Because in due time, you need to, your resources needs to be scalable, right? You need to scale up your resources for that purpose. So that is the first scenario where you can actually apply your cloud, you can actually utilize the cloud services. Second scenario, a researcher wants to conduct his or her compute intensive experiments. Let's say, for example, if you do pursuing for the masters or PhD, and you wanted to do certain experiments where your experiments requires the high resources. You might have already heard about the MATLAB and AutoCAD kind of softwares where you require large storage, right? Computing power, that is, you need number of cores processing power, and RAM also, right? That is, a huge RAM is required to run those softwares. Even just open those softwares to install and to run those softwares into your computer, you require these things. The large resources are required. If you wanted to experiment with them, you require even more processing power, right? And in that kind of scenario, if those things are not available with you, what you'll do, right? You'll stop those your experiments. Better to go for the cloud services where such kind of resources are available and you can simply utilize them for your purpose, right? Third scenario is e-shopping website. Like, think about a situation where Amazon shopping site, right? Think about many, whenever some festivals or sale comes, the website will become very busy, but still it is responding to you. Now think about this website that you would like to create, in which it will work. It will work normally in normal days, and can also accommodate the high amount of user requests during the sale time, right? Think about, right? If normal website will crash if there are so many requests will be generated per second, right? But it is still working during the sales, right? But why it is like so? Because those websites are scalable, right? The resources which it is utilizing behind the scene is scalable in its nature. Let's say, for example, in the normal days, it is only utilizing 6 core processors with 32 GB RAM, right? But when the cell time comes, it is scaled up, and now it is utilizing 128 GB RAM and 60 core processors. How it is possible? So what I'm trying to say is that your hardware resources needs to be scaled up and scaled down according to the need, according to the load, right? And this is possible with the cloud, right? So what three features that I am just trying to target with these three scenarios is with the first scenarios, I need a demand. I am demanding the infrastructure. In the second scenario, I'm thinking about the platform. And the third scenario, I'm talking about the scalable application, right? Hope it is. Any questions so far? Yeah, somebody is saying accessing data from another storage other than out hard disk storage. Yes, the cloud can actually provide such kind of service. That is your Google Drive. Any question other than this? I am audible, right?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Yeah, fine. Okay. So I guess that up till this thing is clear. Fine. So what is the problem if I don't look out for the cloud options? If I don't wanted to go for the cloud, what are the different challenges that I need to tackle up? So according to these three scenarios that we are wanted to talk about, first one is the infrastructure cost. That is, investing in required infrastructure could be expensive. If you are just a startup, you do not have that much investment, and the scope of the infrastructure is very big, right? You need to plan it strategically in that case. So investing into the required infrastructure would be very expensive. My meaning of the infrastructure over here is that computing resources, right? I'm not talking about any other infrastructure. The computing resources as well as the storage resources that and at the beginning, you cannot even imagine that how much computing resources and how much uh, storage requirement you will be requiring, right? So that could be the problem, and that could be a very crucial thing at the starting. Second one is monitoring, maintenance, and troubleshooting. That whatever the hardware that you are investing in, you also requires some kind of maintenance, right? Right. So let's say I have actually 5 hard disks in my storage, and what if during the working, this two of them will become failed, right? Your whole business could collapse, because if it depends upon those storage thing, your business could be collapsed, right? So the monitoring, maintenance, and troubleshooting is also requirement while you are investing it in your own hardware, right? Whenever you are actually having your own servers, you need to maintain them, you need to monitor them also. Third one is resource utilization. This is also one of the challenge while you are actually having your own infrastructure, right? You are investing it in your servers, which might be larger amount than what you need, right? Let's say, for example, if I need only 16 core processor and I have invested in 64 core processors, that means I am just underutilizing it, right? I have invested more, but I'm not utilizing it its full functionality, right? Your laptop or in your mobile, you will be having a plenty of resources which is sit idle without its utilization at full, right? You might be, whenever you are trying to purchase a laptop or mobile, you are thinking of a good amount of resources. You might be thinking of that I should have to purchase i7 or i9 processor nowadays, right? But are we utilizing it fully, right? If we are just browsing it, if you are simply utilizing the laptop for browsing, I do not require the i7 processor, or I do not require the large amount of RAM for that, right? If I just wanted to do some graphical thing, or if I wanted to do some wanted to run certain softwares which is compute intensive, then I need those resources, right? So resource utilization is also one of the criteria that you need to look at while you are actually investing into the hardware. Fourth one is the service abstraction. The example that I've given you, that if you wanted to utilize the electricity at your home, are we bothered about that, how that electricity has been generated, right? We are not, right? We are simply utilizing it, and we are paying for only those much electricity units that we have actually utilized, right? And the same thing is also applicable for the computation also, right? What if some service kind of some kind of a service is given to me that I can utilize, and I'll just I'll pay for whatever the amount that I'm using, right? So service abstraction that comes with the cloud, that we are do not bother about that where my computing resource is lying, right? Whether it has been the server that I'm utilizing is whether it is in China or in US or some far from my country, right? I'm just utilizing those servers, right? And it's storage or whether it's competition, right? So that is called the service abstraction. What is the feature that comes up with the cloud? So this is why cloud. This is about why cloud. So we try to understand that why we need the cloud. One is we wanted to do not invest into the infrastructure. We do not bother about the services that from where it is coming to me. So we do not want to bother about the internals, and we do not also wanted to think about that how to monitor those resources, right? So in that case, we should have to go for the cloud. So what is cloud then? This is a generalized figure which will give us the definition of the cloud. I do not want to give you the formalized definition of the cloud. Rather than that, I would like to show you its features. And this figure has all the features of the cloud, right? So if we talk about very first thing, that is the cloud characteristics. These are the main characteristics of the cloud computing that brings to the user, that because of which we should have to adopt the cloud. First thing is on-demand self-service. That is, whenever I wanted to utilize the cloud services, only that time I'll just invoke it, like electricity, right? Whenever you want to turn on the bulb, you just switch it on. Else it is just off and you are not utilizing the services. So similarly here also, you can utilize the cloud services whenever you need it, whenever you want it, and you can turn it on and off by yourself. That is the self-service on demand. Ubiquitous network access. That means you can actually access it from anywhere over the internet, whether you are currently in it at your home, or whether you are at your workplace, whether you are out of country, and from anywhere, wherever the internet is available, you can access it. If I just give you the example of this thing as is your Gmail server, right? Yeah, Gmail account, right? You are able to access it from anywhere, anytime, any device, right? That is nothing but your cloud service only, right? If you think of email service as a cloud service, Gmail is your email service, right? You are able to access it independent of the location where you are over the network. You can access it from your computer, you can access it from your mobile, whether you are at your home or whether you are at somewhere else. You can access it from anywhere. And Google Drive, right? G Drive, you can actually access the data which is residing into your Google Drive from anywhere at demand, right? Third one is location independent resource pooling. You are not aware that from where this resources has been hosted, right? You are actually placing certain files into you are storing certain files into your Google Drive, and you are not knowing actually that where those files has been stored in which location of that server location you are not aware about, right? So it is independent of location independent, right? Whether that server could be hosted at US, it could be hosted at China, or it could be hosted at even Pakistan also, right? You are not aware about, right? And you are simply what we want is resource pooling. Whatever the resources are available to me, I just wanted to access them whenever I require. Rapid elasticity, that is, you can scale up and scale down your resources. Gmail is providing you the I guess 15 GB free storage, right? What if that 15 GB has been exhausted, right? So you can actually pay more and get more resources afterwards, right? So 15 GB is free for you. So that is a free tier that it is providing to you. After the 15 GB has been utilized, you can actually pay more and you can utilize as much storage that you need according to your requirement. So rapid elasticity, that means you can actually scale up and scale down the users. I also given you the example of the Amazon website that during the sell time they need the more resources, right? Because more number of users has been connected to the websites during those times, and in that time the more number of resources are required. So at that time they can actually scale up their resources, and when the need is not there, in that case they can scale down and reduce their payment billing cycles, like kind of thing, right? The fourth or sorry fifth characteristic is pay per use. So amount of resources that you are utilizing and amount of time that you are spending into that, only that much you need to pay, like the electricity bill, right? The number of units that you are utilizing, only that much amount you need to pay. So here also the amount of storage or amount of computation that you are utilizing, only that much you need to pay. Like as I given you the example of the Google Drive, right? G Drive or Gmail service, Google services, the 15 GB storage is free for you, after which you need to pay, right? If you are utilizing storage more than 15 GB, all the bits that you are storing more than 15 GB, you need to pay for it, right? Only the amount that you are utilizing, that you need to pay for. Is it clear? Hello. Any question to this? Yeah, fine. Okay, so if we go for the deployment models, there are three type of deployment models. That is how we can actually implement the cloud. So there are basically three types of cloud deployment models are there. First is the public cloud. That is the services which has been used all over the internet. That is publicly open for all, like Gmail, like Google Drive, like we can say Microsoft, different Microsoft Office services, right? Office 365, right? Whoever is subscribing to those services, they can actually access it. So that is nothing but the example of a public cloud. That is, it is open publicly for all. Now, if you go for the private cloud, that is private to organization. That means those services will be accessible within the organization only. Say, for example, if your institute might be creating one cloud infrastructure for the students to perform certain practicals, right? So to perform certain practicals. So in that case, that service is considered as the private to the students of the institute only, right? And that is nothing but the example of a private cloud. If we think about the hybrid cloud, which is combining both these things, that is both this kind of a thing, that certain services might be private to the organization and certain services it is actually incorporating from the public cloud, right? So certain services are private, certain services are public. So that is called the hybrid cloud, which is a combination of a public and private cloud both, right? So that is all about the deployment model. Then let's talk about the different services which has been provided by the cloud. So that is there are three types of services has been provided by the cloud. That is infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. So first one is infrastructure as a service. So what is that? Infrastructure as a service means the cloud is providing you the whole infrastructure to be utilized. Just a minute. So that is you are renting the computation power. You can say that infrastructure means could we include the processing power, the RAM, then storage, and the network bandwidth possibly, right? So this is nothing but your whole infrastructure of your computer, right? And that you wanted to buy it or you wanted to lease it over the rent, right? So that is your infrastructure as a service. So the whole machine is given to you to do the task, right? If I just give you an example, let's say for example, in my if I wanted to run a MATLAB in my machine, but my machine is not having that much resources available to me. So in that case, I can rent a machine from the cloud. Let's say for example, Amazon. Amazon is a good provider of infrastructure as a service. So what I say is that I just rent a machine from the AWS, Amazon Web Services, and it will give me the options that which kind of machine that I want. Let's say, for example, I want a machine with 8 GB of RAM, 4-core processor, and operating system that I want is Windows, right? So operating system could be also choice with the infrastructure service, right? So operating system that is Windows with 8-core processor and 4-core processor and 8 GB of RAM. That is sufficient for me. So I just request such kind of a machine to the AWS, and AWS will run a machine on their platform and will give me the access. That is, the access could be the remote desktop service, right? And if it is a Linux machine, that could be a shell service, right? It could be anything. I wanted to run a MATLAB, so I choose the Windows server, Windows machine, and I access it through the remote desktop. So what happened in that case is I can actually utilize the resources of the Amazon, and I run MATLAB over there. I do perform my experiments, and then I'll turn off that service, and I'll pay for only the amount of time that I have actually spent on that server, on that machine, right? That is nothing but your infrastructure as a service, right? So IaaS provides me the computation power, infrastructure. Now think about the another situation. Now let's say for example, I do not want any specific kind of configuration hardware, right? That is processing power or RAM or something else, right? What I'm interested in is just running a program. I have the MATLAB program with me or a Python program with me, and I wanted to run it over the server, right? I just wanted to run it. I just wanted to host it on a server, right? Another example could be I have the website with me and I wanted to host it on over the hosting space. I wanted to run it, right? PHP website or any other website, or as I given you the example of MATLAB or Python program, right? I just wanted to run it over the server. So in that case, I do not require the whole infrastructure, right? I'm not specifying that which kind of infrastructure I need. What I'm interested in is the platform that I want, right? Let's say, for example, if I wanted to run a Python program, I need a Python platform over the internet. If I wanted to host a website, PHP website, in that case, I need a PHP platform over the server, right? I just upload my website over that server, and I'm just trying to access it, right? So that is a second kind of service which has been offered by the cloud, is the platform as a service. If you are not bother about the hardware infrastructure, in that case, you can go for the platform as a service, right? Where you can actually host your programs and you can run them as per the requirement. The third one type of service is provided by the software as a service. So I'm not bothered about the platform. I'm not bothered about the hardware which is running over there. Let's say, for example, if I wanted to run email service for my organization, right? I do not want, if this one option could be, I can actually host it over the infrastructure. Infrastructure is available to me. I just host them and I run them. Another could be, I have my email server with me, email service with me. I just host it over the cloud and I use it. Third kind of thing is that rather than hosting my own services, I'm just simply utilizing the service which has been provided by the different vendors. That is a GWell service, right? So that is nothing but the software as a service. So whatever the softwares that you would like to run, you just try to opt the service which has been provided by the different vendors. Over here, I just wanted to give you another example of your let's say, for example, if I just give you the example of pizza, right? Uh, just try to compare it with these three different models that cloud services has provided. Just try to understand that if you wanted to eat a pizza, there are different options are available to you. One is you just make a call or just purchase it online, and the pizza will be you just choose your pizza, and the pizza will be delivered to your home. That is nothing but we can compare it with the SaaS. That is, you do not bother about that how that pizza has been how it has been made, which kind of oven has been used, or who has actually created it. What you are doing is you are just ordering it online. You are choosing your toppings and the type of pizza that you wanted to eat, and it will be delivered to your home, right? So all the other information is you do not bother about. So that is nothing but your SaaS. You just wanted to use the service. That's it. You wanted to eat the pizza. That is your all goal. In that case, you can just simply order it and use it. Second is you just go to the pizza shop, right? Where let's say, for example, Domino's, you go, you order, you choose your pizza, you order it, then you eat it at the same place, at the pizza shop, and then you come back, right? So uh, rather than eating that pizza at your home, you are also actually utilizing the platform which has been provided by the pizza shop, right? You are actually utilizing the tables and all the services which has been provided by the pizza owner, right? So that is your pass, right? You are just choosing the pizza, and you are also utilizing the services which has been provided by them. So that is your platform, right? Platform. Third one is you do not wanted to buy a pizza from any vendor. You wanted to create it your own, right? So you can think of a place where it allows you to create make your own pizza, right? You just go there, you choose the different raw materials to require to create your own pizza toppings and all that, butter, bread and all that, and you just utilize the ovens and of that pizza shop, and you just bake your own pizza, you eat it over there, you pay for the services which has been provided by the pizza owners, that shop owners, right? So that is your infrastructure as a service. In the SaaS, you are just ordering the pizza. In the PaaS, you are just go to that shop and you just order the pizza and you eat it. In the IaaS, you go to the shop, you utilize all the resources which has been uh, required to bake your pizza, and you come back, right? So these are the three different models that has been provided by the cloud. I hope that it is clear with this example. Any questions so far? Hello. Any question? Okay, so I guess no question. Fine. So same thing has been can be understood in technical way through this thing, that if you have your own website or on site, if you wanted to run your application on your own site, in that case, what you need and what you needed to manage, right? What you need to manage is you need to manage the networking, storage, servers, virtualization. That we come at this particular point later on, that if you wanted to host a scalable website, say for example, you need to utilize the virtualization. So if even if you are just ignoring this virtualization as of now, what you need is network, storage, servers you need, right? You also need to manage the operating system, any middleware application if it is there, runtime. Let's say for example, if I'm just hosting a website of my own, I need to install the PHP XAMPP server or LAMP server into my machine, right? I need to manage that runtime also. If I wanted to run a Java application, I need a Java platform for to be running in my machine. If I'm running the Python application, I need a Python interpreter in my machine, right? So similarly, whatever the application, whatever the type of application that I would like to run, I need to manage its runtime also. Then I also need to manage this application and whatever the data that I'm having on the program. The data you can consider it as a one kind of the data or the output or input files or something like that, right? So that also I need to manage. So if I wanted to run this application at my own, right, in that case I need to manage all these things. Now think about the different types of cloud applications that has been provided, cloud services which has been provided by the cloud owner, the cloud vendor. In that case, what I need to manage. So if I go for the IaaS, infrastructure as a service, so in that case, this networking, storage, server, and virtualization I should not have to bother about, because that has been managed by the cloud vendor itself, right? What I want is the operating system. I need to choose which operating system that I wanted to run, right? So that has been in my control. I need to manage, right? One machine is provided to me through the virtualization, of course. One machine is provided to me, and within that machine might be the operating system is already been installed. What I need to do later on is, let's say if I wanted to run a MATLAB program which I cannot run into my own machine, in that case one machine, remote machine, is given to me, and what I need to do is I just need to install my MATLAB program into it, into MATLAB software into that operating system. Then I need to create my own program. Then I have to run it. I can input my, I can give my input, the data which I require to run that program, and I can generate the output, and all those things I can do, right? So in that case, what I need to manage in this case is I can manage the operating system, whatever the middleware, if it is there, runtime platform, I can say that is the MATLAB or the Python. I can install the Python program. I can install my own LAMP or XAMPP server into it. I can use it, and my website, right? I just need to manage all these things. All other things are managed by the vendor itself, right? If I go for platform as a service, in that case, up till from networking to the runtime, all these stacks has been managed by the vendor, right? I should not bother about that. If I wanted to, if I just opt for the Python platform, in that case, the Python runtime has been provided to me directly. I do not bother about the which operating system is running beneath it. I should not have to bother about what is the storage capacity has been provided to my machine. I should not have to bother about. What I bother about is Python platform is given to me, MATLAB platform is given to me. I just need to run it. Is it clear? Right. I just need to host my website and the data that I want. If I go for the software as a service, in that case, from networking to applications, all things has been managed by the cloud provider. I just need to use the service. I'll just example of the Gmail service, right? You just need to open the account. You just exchange the emails, and whatever the data which is residing over that email, you just accessing that. You are not bothered about that which version of email service has been provided to me by the Gmail, right? Email is which for that I just needed to set up the SMTP server. If I just wanted to set up my own server, in that case I need to set up my own mail server. But I'm not bothered about that, those things, right? What I'm just interested in is that my mail should be working, right? My email should be working, and that is what the data which has been provided by the SaaS. This time I just wanted to show you the different services which I'm talking about, right? Hope my screen is visible. This browser is visible to you? Hello?
Yes, sir, it is visible. MATLAB is visible. Yes, sir.
Fine. So you can see that Gmail is one of the example of the software as a service, and you can see that I'm just opting for the service, and I can exchange my emails through this. So I'm not bothered about where it is storing those mails. I'm not even maintaining those servers, right? I'm not troubleshooting any if there is any kind of problem in that hard disk where these emails are being stored, right? So I'm not bothered about that thing. So I'm just bother about the emails that I'm getting, right? So this is the example of the software as a service. There are plenty of examples of the software as a service. We are going to look at it through other thing, but this is the example of software as a service. Now, if we think about platform as a service, so let's say, for example, if I wanted to run a Python program, right? So Google Colab is one of the platform which allows me to run my Python programs, right? You can see this is a notebook that it is providing to me, Google Colab, and you can see that certain codes has been written, right? Which what it is doing is it is actually doing the correlation analysis between the data. Just giving you the brief of introduction. So you can see that whenever I wanted to run any specific program, I can actually write a code over this notebook and I can run it. Now you can see that this part, if you can see, it is showing me that I am connected to the Google server, and I'm this platform is given to me to run the code. Now once I just go through this uh, shells, you can see that it is even allows me to install certain libraries which are not available uh, directly available into the platform, right? So I'm just installing certain packages, and you can see that I'm able to run my program. Yeah, see, you can see that it is running, and now it is generating the graph, right? So similarly, you can actually utilize the services. Now for to understand, you just need to understand that I haven't installed the Python in my machine, but I am still able to use it, right, over the internet. And the beauty of this thing is that it is allowing you the minimal resources which you can access, and you can also scale it up if you need it, right? So on the go. Similarly, this is another platform where I can actually utilize the MATLAB, right? So as I given you the example that MATLAB is a huge software which is required. If you just try to install it in your machine, it requires plenty of resources of your machine, right, to run it. Like if you just say, if I just say that if I just wanted to install the latest version of the MATLAB, it requires 30 GB of space in my machine. Storage space, and if I just wanted to run it, the minimum configuration that my laptop requires is 4-core processor and 8 GB of RAM. And let's say if my machine does not have this much of resources available with me, uh, and I wanted to run the MATLAB, in that case I can purchase its online service. I just need to buy its license, and you can see that I can run it online, right? Currently MATLAB is not installed in my machine, and you can see that one program I have written and I wanted to run it. And this is nothing but the one kind of example of the uh, platform as a service. You can see that it has started running though. It it will run the same way that it is running in your running in your machine. Whatever uh, the file that you wanted to give it is input. Similar Google Drive kind of service is also provided by the the MATLAB, where you can store your input files and you can also generate the output files, and that files will also will be stored into your drive itself. Yeah, it's taking time to run. Yeah, you can see this. Is it visible? Hello.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Yeah, so I think you should not have to bother about that what it is showing actually, but see, this is the program for creating this is an example of machine learning program actually. It is actually creating a artificial neural network, right? This is the example of a neural network that I have created, and I have trained it, and it is also showing me the output here, the different windows, right? So this is the example where I can actually create and train my neural network, and I can use it for whatever the need that I want, right? So this is the MATLAB that I'm running in a browser. This is the example of a platform as a service. Another example that I wanted to give, which is related to the infrastructure as a service, but I guess there is one lecture in upcoming days for you is related to the AWS service, so I'm not going for that. But I'm just trying to show you the service which is free. You can consider it as an infrastructure as a service, but currently it is actually technically it is an example of infrastructure as a service. Now you can see that I wanted to run a Linux machine, and here you can see that this is the service that I'm using. This is free of cost, and it does not require any kind of a sign up. So it is providing me the 256 GB of RAM and 5 GB of dedicated space and 2 CPU cores, which is providing me, right? So this is a Linux machine access which is providing me in the browser itself. So you can consider it as a one kind of example of infrastructure service. So currently in my machine, I do not have a Linux machine, but I would like to use the I wanted to run certain Linux commands, and you can see that in a terminal I can get the access of the terminal now, right? Which is providing me some limited services for limited resources for limited time, right? So you can see that I can do whatever I want related to the Linux commands that has been there. Currently there is no file. So let's say, for example, if I say touch test.sh, this is creating a file, and let me open it. I'm just creating one file. I'm saving the file, and let's say I wanted to test it. Wanted to see whether the content has been written or not. You can see that all the contents that have actually saved in the file is visible, right? So basically what I'm trying to show you is that over here, all the resources which has been provided to me, the computation power, the RAM, and the storage space, all I can utilize it according to my need, right? Currently, this service is providing me a limited access and limited service only. But if you just think about infrastructure as a service, it will be according to whatever the amount you pay. That is a pay per use service. If you just think about AWS, it is providing you the infrastructure on the go according to you the requirement. Here it is not asking me that how much CPU I want. It is only because it is a free of cost. It is fixing it, right? But if you go for AWS service, it will ask that how much resources you wanted for your service, right? And you can pay for it, right? And that you will get according to your need. So this is the different examples of IaaS, platform as a service, and software as a service. Let me again go for another examples that is there. You can think of plenty of services that you are utilizing as those are nothing but the cloud service examples only. If you are utilizing the Office 365, currently we are actually talking with each other through the Teams, Microsoft Teams, which is also nothing but one kind of a service which has been provided by the Microsoft. Another example of software as a service, right? Similarly, you are already having a Gmail account. You are utilizing the different services and applications of the Google. That is a calendar, Google Drive, the spreadsheet, the Google Documents. All these are nothing but the example of software service. If you go further, Twitter, Netflix, Facebook, Dropbox, all these services are provided to you. Might be free of cost, might be you are paying for it, but all these are examples of the software as a service. Why software as a service? Because you are simply utilizing the services. You are not actually bother about, or you are not actually doing, there is no of your in managing those services, right? You are simply opting the services. You are simply utilizing those services. Another example of the different examples for the platform based service are we have already seen the MATLAB I have shown you, the Google Colab I have shown you. Apart from that, there is a Google App Engine is there, where it is allowing you to host your own website, PHP or Java based website. You can actually host it over there. You can search it and you can use it. Google App Engine. Similarly, Microsoft is also providing the Azure platform, the Microsoft Azure. Azure is also providing a plenty of different services also. It is also providing the infrastructure as a service also, and the platform as a service also. So PaaS and SaaS, IaaS both are provided by the Microsoft Azure also. But mainly it is known for the PaaS. So that's why I have actually kept it as PaaS. There is Oracle is also providing the PaaS clouds, and also Compute Cloud is also providing. Yeah, Google is also providing the infrastructure as a service. We will see it in the next slide. So Oracle is providing the platform as a service. You can actually run your SQL queries and programs over the browser through this PaaS service. You can create your own PL/SQL scripts, and you can run it and host it over the cloud and run it. Similarly, Red Hat is also providing Red Hat, IBM Cloud Foundry, and Heroku. These are the different. They are providing different platform services. You can host your programs and run it. What is the difference between SaaS and PaaS? Is in SaaS you are actually directly utilizing the services which is provided by the cloud provider, while in the PaaS you are hosting your services and others can use your softwares, right? You are hosting your programs and others are utilizing those programs. Third one is these are the different examples which has been provided by the infrastructure as a service. Amazon is the very well popular service, which is popular platform which is providing the infrastructure as a service. AWS EC2 is the main service which has been provided by. There are different services has been provided by the Amazon Web Service, which includes the SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. All three kinds of services has been provided by the Amazon. EC2 is the name of the service which has been allow us to go for the infrastructure as a service. Right, so Amazon EC2 is a service which is providing us the infrastructure. That is, you can rent different types of machines over the internet. Right. Eucalyptus is the example of the private cloud. If you wanted to create your own private cloud, Eucalyptus, VMware vCloud, OpenStack, OpenNebula, all this which is on the right side you can see are the framework which allows you to create your own private cloud. While if you go for the left hand side, that is Amazon's Web Service, Google Cloud, DigitalOcean, Oracle, all these are providing you the compute services on the rent. That is, you can simply go for the public cloud. You can sign up for these services, pay for it, and you can utilize them. Most of the services are when you sign up, they are asking for you for the credit card or debit card details of yours, and then it will deduct the money according to the services that you are actually utilizing. Right. So you just need to give your credit card, debit card information while you sign up, and the amount of services that you are actually opting for, or the amount of service that according to the time or the resources that you are utilizing, the amount will be directly deducted from that your bank account. So these are the different examples of IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. This is what the cloud is. Now, if you have any query, let me take it for before I just go further. Okay, so there are certain examples. What is Kubernetes service? Okay, Kubernetes is a special kind of service which are actually you can think of a platform as a service. I do not wanted to go into that, but it is actually kind of automation service, right? If you wanted to run your application with scalable application, you can go for Kubernetes. For example, if I had created a simple login system on web and how we can store the data on cloud, what software are required or concept? Let me understand the question. For example, if I had created a simple login system for web and how can we store the data on cloud, what software are requirement or concept? You can go for PaaS. If you wanted to host your website, you can go for platform as a service. I have already given you the example of Google App Engine. You can go for Google App Engine or Microsoft Azure, where you can actually host your website, and you can use the storage also that is come with that. You can host your application, and you can utilize that platform as a service for storing your website. So if you wanted to create your login page or anything else, you can use it. Hope I answered the question properly. Any further question? Any further question? Hello? Okay, so I think there is no one. Okay. So how this cloud computing works? I'm just taking a case study of Eucalyptus Cloud for understanding this thing. You can think of the Eucalyptus Cloud private cloud service as equivalent to the Amazon with Amazon EC2 service, right? So let's try to understand that what it is and how it is working internally. So Eucalyptus stands for the, as I said, that Eucalyptus Cloud Framework is the private cloud framework, and it is generally open source cloud framework. So if you wanted to create your own cloud, if you wanted to set it up your own cloud, in that case, you can go for the Eucalyptus Cloud Framework. It is providing the infrastructure as a service. If once you have the infrastructure as a service, you can always go for the PS and SaaS, right? So IaaS is your basic need, right? That is, and you can always go for the upward services, that is platform as a service and the software as a service. Eucalyptus stands for the Eucalyptus Utility Computing Architecture, linking your programs to useful systems. So this is the full form of Eucalyptus. It is a simple open architecture for implementing cloud functionality at the infrastructure as a service level. It supports the different type of hypervisors. Hypervisor means virtualization platform. There are different types of virtualization platforms out there, and Eucalyptus is supporting many of them, right? That is, I've just named a few. That is KVM, Zen, and VMware. These are the main virtualization platform, we can say, which is in the market available. And Eucalyptus Cloud Framework is supporting all these things. To understand the working of the Eucalyptus, just try to understand the different components of the cloud that is Eucalyptus have. That is first one is the cloud controller. Cloud controller is nothing but the main management framework that is managing all the resources within the cloud. Now, if you just understand, the cloud is having the number of resources available with it, or we can say the pool of resources with it. And for that, it requires the number of machines, that physical machines, and those physical machines that it needs to manage it, right? So cloud controller is there, which is managing all those resources. Walrus is one kind of a storage resources where we are actually storing the virtual machines. Now we just wanted to understand the cloud internals. We need to understand the virtualization also. I hope that you are already aware with the virtual machines. Virtual machines are nothing but the a kind of virtual virtual resources which is given to me for running my programs or computation that I wanted to do, right? So let's say, for example, in my machine, Windows installed, and I wanted to run a Linux parallelly with the Windows. So there are two options. I can go for dual boot operating system, that I install the Linux in separately in my different drive, and I can run it. Another could be the another possibility could be I just install one of the virtual machine virtualization platform in my Windows operating system. I can go for the VirtualBox, or I can go for the VMware products, or I can go for the Hyper-V, which has been provided with Microsoft, right? And I can run it. And I install the, I create the virtual machine, and I install the Linux into it, and I can access it, right? So whenever we talk about the cloud, whenever we talk about the infrastructure as a service, what cloud provider is doing is, you are just demanding one kind of machine. Let's say, for example, I wanted to run a MATLAB, the example that I've given, with 8 GB of RAM, 4-core processor, and Windows operating system. So what cloud provider is doing is, it runs the virtual machine on their platform, which is having this configuration of the machine, right? 8 GB RAM, 4-core processor, and Windows operating system. So it is running the virtual machine and give me the access of it, right? So behind the scene in the cloud, there is a virtualization involved in it, right? So Walrus is a component of the Eucalyptus cloud where we are storing these virtual machines, right? Third one is storage controller, where user can actually store their data. When user is working on a cloud platform, he wants to store his own data also. I have given you the example that when I am accessing the MATLAB services online, I wanted to upload my data. I wanted to store the output into whatever the programs that I'm running. They also generating certain output, and I wanted to store them. And for that, I need certain storage space, and that storage space is provided in the Eucalyptus cloud by the storage controller. There is a cluster controller. That means its job is managing the number of physical machines, right? I'll just create the cluster of physical machines. Let's say, for example, if I think about the Amazon services, it is having the servers in the US, it has the servers in China, right? So it is not like that Amazon is hosting the servers at one place only, right? All those physical machines are distributed at the different zones, at the different physical in the different countries, might, right? Different buildings, we can say, right? So in that case, if I wanted to manage those physical servers differently, I just create a cluster of it, right? And that clusters has been managed by the cluster controller. So if I have a rack machine with the, if I have a rack with 4 machines and I wanted to create a cluster of it, right? So I just create a cluster of 2 machines individually, right? Within one cluster, I have 2 physical machines, and that 2 physical machine work as a single machine then, right? And that has been managed by the cluster controller. Individually, this physical machines is considered as the node controller here. These are the different terminologies. And if you just think of a different cloud framework, this terminologies might be changing, but the working is the same. At the end, we have a node controller on which we are hosting the virtual machines. This node controllers will be managed by the cluster controller, and this alongside with this cluster controller, we have a separate space which has been provided, which is managed by the storage controller. And on top of that, all these things will be managed by the cloud controller. Hope I'm clear with this. And this whole thing is managed by certain APIs, which is compatible with AWS. As I said, that Eucalyptus framework is very close to the working of AWS, right? Where certain APIs, common APIs are been given and you can access it, right? So these are the different components of the Eucalyptus cloud. And now we try to understand that how things are working. So there are different users has been created into the cloud, and they have the different access mechanism with them. So let's say, for example, there is a user which is demanding a service, infrastructure as a service, like as I said, that I need a machine with Windows machine with 4 GB of RAM and 8 core processor. Sorry, 8 GB of RAM and 4 core processor. Windows operating system, and let's say, for example, 50 GB of storage space. So in that case, that request goes to the first to the cloud controller. Now cloud controller will check that cloud controller is managing number of clusters with it, right? Number of clusters are there, which is managed by the cloud controller. It checks that where I can serve this request. There are all these clusters are actually serving different kind of services, and cloud controller is managing all these clusters. So it will check that where I can host this service, where I can actually where I can place this request, right? So request come from the user. Cloud controller will check that from where I can actually fulfill this request. Let's say, for example, this request can be served by cluster A. Then it will go give this request to cluster A. Cluster will again check that it is managing number of node controllers, or I can say number of physical machines. So all these physical machines might be busy serving different users. Now it checks that which server among this node controller is able to fulfill this request, right? And it identify that the second number of node controller is able to serve this request. So in that case, it will give this request to this second number of node controller. The second number of node controller is now, according to the requirement, turn up one virtual machine with the request that the user has, right? That is 8 GB of RAM and 4 core processor, 50 GB of hard disk, and operating system is equivalent to Windows. It will turn on this virtual machine and give the access to the user through node controller to cluster controller to control the cloud controller to a user. Now it will also open the different services which has been there in the Windows. Might be that Windows has the already has the XAMPP server installed, so you can actually access the website which is running on that. If I just wanted to access the Windows itself, Windows operating system whole, in that case I can the one IP address will be given to the user, right? IP address and the username password will be given to the user, by which it can actually take the remote desktop service of that Windows machine and can access that machine, right? So similarly, if it is a Linux machine, it could be a shell, right? So IP address, username, password, and it can access it to the SSH services. So different kind of services are there by which you can access your resources. Then once the remote desktop service has been given to the user is actually accessing the whole machine, like he is accessing his own machine, right? Then he can install the MATLAB into that machine. He can run the programs, or he can actually install the XAMPP service. He can host the website and do the work. Once the work has been finished, it can actually turn off the instance. It can turn off the virtual machine by just giving the request, and the virtual machine will be destroyed from the node controller there, right? Service will be stopped. So this is how the cloud works internally. These are the same steps that has been described, that I have explained. Any questions so far? Okay, so if there is no question, I'll just quickly go through the virtualization. I'll just give you the quick overview of it, and because we have less time now. You can post your questions if any. I'll just take it at the end. Fine. So what is virtualization? As I given you the example that cloud is running based on the virtualization only, right? If you think of the infrastructure as service, the main key component that is enabling the cloud is the virtualization. Generally, we are utilizing the virtualization for many other purposes also. You can think of the virtualization as one of the abstraction layer like your operating system, which has been placed between the operating system and your hardware, right? And it is supporting all these things which is your machine is supporting, right? You can generally we are utilizing the virtualization for one purpose. Very first purpose that we come across for is if I wanted to run multiple operating system in my physical machine at the same simultaneously. So in that case, I'll go for the virtualization. I have just given you the example that if I wanted to run Linux operating system along with my Windows operating system, I'll go for VirtualBox or virtual VMware, any of the one VMware product. I'll just install it and I'll run it in my machine, right? And I just do that. Now the question comes that if there is no virtualization, why I cannot run operating system simultaneously in my machine? So as we are knowing that we can always go for dual boot operating system. That is, I can install the Linux operating system along with the Windows and through the dual boot, and I can run it. But if I wanted to run it simultaneously, parallelly, I cannot do that. So for that, I need the virtualization. Why I cannot do that in a parallelly? Because without virtualization, our operating system, that is, if you think of the Windows understands that all the hardware which is there in my machine is its own, right? It's my own, and I don't want to share it with anybody else, right? And that's why it is not allowing us to run the different operating systems simultaneously. There are obviously technical things are there beneath it, but this is the main problem, that it is not allowing us to run multiple operating systems simultaneously. Why virtualize? There are different advantages that it is providing. Main reason for that is consolidate underutilized servers. The first advantage that I have given to you, that underutilization. Let's say, for example, if you are having a computer, you will be having a multiple servers in your organization, like web server is there, file server is there. Apart of that, there are plenty of different email server is there, right? If you wanted to run this different servers into different hardware, different servers, in that case, you need the different physical resources for that. In general, you need multiple computers to run all these services, right? If you just spend more money into more resources over there, you might be having 16 core processor into one such kind of a server to run a service. But are you utilizing all those processing power for that service? Generally not. Our servers are go underutilized. So rather than investing into individually into those physical servers, you can go for investing into one physical server and consolidate all those services into one physical server by running multiple virtual machines onto the top of that physical machine, right? So consolidate underutilized services. So I have different services, different physical servers. I just wanted to run it on one physical server with different virtual machines. You can avoid downtime with VM relocation. Ideally, virtual machine is nothing but a set of files, right? Technically, it is just a folder where all these things are set of files. If you say that I have a hard disk of 50 GB in my virtual machine, I have one file worth of 50 GB in my folder, right? So, and that is nothing but a virtual machine. I can actually copy, and if it is a file, set of files, you can actually copy the folder from one physical machine to another physical machine, right? You can move it, right? And that you can do it with a zero downtime. Dynamically rebalance the workload. If you have a number of physical machine, you can move your virtual machine from one physical machine to another physical machine for the load balancing, right? In the cloud, let's say in a one node controller, you will be having 3 virtual machines which are running, and one user demands that, okay, I wanted to scale up my service, and that many resources are not available into not that node controller, you can actually move your physical machine from that node controller to another node controller by just moving your virtual machine from one physical machine to another physical machine, and then you can reboot it up with the larger larger resources, right? You can say that 16 GB RAM to 64 GB RAM, you can scale it up. So what are the different advantages which has been provided by the virtualization? That is, one is resource sharing, that if my physical machine has a number of resources, let's say for example, I am having 128 GB RAM and 64 core processor. If I just want, if I just run one service into that physical machine, my server will be go underutilized. But if I wanted to share it among multiple users, and I at the same time I want that all these three users can run independently, right? Let's say for example, one user is running Windows operating system, another one is using Linux operating system, third one is using might be Mac OS, right? So in that case, I wanted to give the resources, I wanted to share my resources. Physically I cannot share, but if I go with the virtualization, I can give the first user 28 core CPU, another 16 core I can give to another user, and another one I can give the remaining one, right? So I can share it physically actually, although technically it's logically, through virtualization. Physically I cannot give individually, right? I cannot divide them, but if I virtualize it, I can divide it. And another advantage which has been given by the virtualization is isolation. That is, if I have running two virtual machines, the one let's say user one, which is running in the, which is utilizing the virtual machine one, cannot look into the resources which has been provided uh, to user 2 into the virtual machine 2. So whatever the resources, whatever the files and folders which has been shared by the virtual machine 1 cannot be accessed by the virtual machine 2 user. Okay. Third one is the snapshot feature. That is, with the virtualization, you can store and take the snapshot. Snapshot means whatever the condition of the virtual machine at this particular position, you can take a snapshot. Let's say, for example, I have created one virtual machine with the Windows. I'll install certain resources, certain programs into it. Then I'm working on it. I just create a snapshot that saying that, okay, this is my initial setup. Then I'm working on that particular virtual machine, and at some moment some virus come into my machine, right, which has crashed many softwares into my machine, and I cannot roll back, right? So in that case, virtualization gives me the feature that I can always roll back into that snapshot that I have created. Let's say my files has been deleted accidentally afterwards, and then I can actually roll back, and I'll get all those files which has been stored at that particular moment when I have created the snapshot. So that is the snapshot feature. You can also create a virtual hardware which is not there in your physical machine. Nowadays we know that floppy drive has been obsolete into my floppy drives are nowadays obsolete. Means you do not have floppy drives in your PC, right? But you can create a virtual floppy drive. You might not have a CD drive in your machine, but you just create a virtual machine having two CD drives in your machine. Your physical machine might have only one network interface card, but you can create a virtual machine with having 4 network interface cards. So you can always create as many virtual hardware that you want in your virtual machine. You might be also aware that you might be for running the game, you might need of CD drives, right? But nowadays in the advanced laptops there is no CD drive, right? but you can always create ISO file. You can create a virtual machine. You can plug in your ISO file as in CD drive, and you can run it through the virtual machine virtualization, right? I think there is time up, so I'll just quickly go through. Yeah, I just wanted to show you this applications of the virtualization. I think advantage is covering all that. Yeah, I just wanted to give you the examples of the virtualization you might be aware of already. Sorry. If you just look at is a VMware Workstation VirtualBox, which is the common platform that we are utilizing for virtualization. If you go for the cloud-like implementation, you can go for ESX server, KVM, Zen. These are the different virtualization platforms which has been utilized by the cloud services, right? Which is a server kind of thing. So this, if you think of VMware Workstation and VirtualBox, you are installing it as an application, a kind of a program software on top of the operating system you are already having, right? If you have a Windows operating system and you wanted to create a virtual machine, you go for the VirtualBox, right? Where you are installing you are downloading the VirtualBox program for its website. You just install it in your machine and you can run it, right? And if you wanted to create your cloud platform, in that case you have to go for a different kind of a virtual machine, which is called the type 1 virtualization. Here there are two types has been shown. VMM is virtual machine management, which is also known as a virtualization platform. We are also commonly call it as a hypervisor, right? So these are the two types of VMM. In the cloud, we are utilizing the type 1 hypervisor, where there is no base operating system is there, right? Base operating system, we are calling it as a host operating system. It's not that, right? So we have directly hardware, that is a physical server hardware is there. We are installing the hypervisor. It could be KVM, or it could be Zen, or it could be ESXi server, VMware ESXi product could be there. On top of that, we are directly running the operating virtual machines. But if you go think of the type 2 hypervisor that we are utilizing for in our, if you wanted to test, let's say for example, I wanted to run Linux machine in top of my physical machine. In that case, I can go for type 2 hypervisor. That is a VirtualBox, which is an example of type 2 hypervisor, right? So there is a hardware, there is a Windows operating system on top of that, and you wanted to run multiple VMs on top of that, right? So you can do that using type 2 hypervisor, right? So these are the advantages and the types of virtualization. This is it from my side. If there was a time, I can actually show you that how to create a virtual machine. I guess that time's up. So you can always go for different videos. If it is required, I'll just post certain links of the videos where you can learn how to create a virtual machine and how to run, how to install an operating system into it, right? Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you very much for listening to me. If there is any question, I can take it. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, any question from any students? I know that it might be but the concepts are a bit high for you, but I have just tried to think. I just have tried to make it simplify and try to give more focused over the examples rather than the technical stuffs. Yeah, the question is that does virtualization relate to MI and AI? ML, I think you wanted to say ML, right? Am I correct? ML, machine learning and artificial intelligence. See, ML and AI are the concepts. Yeah, you can actually the virtualization is a kind of a platform or technology that enables the platform to run it. Like I have given you the example of that. Yeah, machine learning. So I have given you the example of running the MATLAB, right? So you can actually MATLAB is a platform where you can run the machine learning codes, machine learning programs, right? And virtualization is technology which can allows you to share resources, right? So let's say, for example, if I wanted to run a machine learning program, I can opt for the cloud services where I can run my machine learning program. So Google Colab that I've given you the example, right? Platform as a service, or MATLAB resource that I've shown you, where you can run your MATLAB, where you can run your machine learning program. Right. So virtualization is not directly related with the machine learning or AI. Virtualization is a technology which will enable you to share the resources. As I said, that cloud allows us to run different services. And I have think of a hardware where where the plenty of resources are there, and you wanted to share it among users. In that case, virtualization come into place. You wanted to run scalable service, virtualization come into the picture. What is bare metal? So type 1 hypervisor is considered to be the bare metal. Bare metal means it does not have the operating system itself, like GUI, fancy GUI kind of a thing, right? Whenever we say that we wanted to run a virtualization platform over the server, not on the simple machine or PC or laptop, we wanted to uh, run a virtualization service for production or organization. In that case, we wanted to install that virtualization service into the servers. Over there, we do not require a fancy operating system. Let's say, for example, when you install the Windows, there are many features come along with you, right? Paint and Office and all those things. But when you think of a organization servers, over there you do not require those kind of thing into your operating system. So there are operating system which are specifically created for uh, just running the virtualization services. Let's say, for example, if I talk about the VMware ESXi, which is a bare metal OS, it is only providing a minimal operating system functionality where you can actually set up the IP addresses, and where you can actually access the files and folders through commands terminal. There is no GUI for it, right? Over there, uh, uh, you can actually create the virtual machines through commands or some set of clients, right? So there is no fancy GUI, only minimal GUI, minimal operating system functionality has been provided, is known as a bare metal OS, right? How it works? It is specially designed for such kind of a things only. It is kind of work as a middleware, right? It is not the whole full functional operating system. It is specialized OS for special functionality, right? So that is your bare metal. Any other question? I hope it solves your query. VMware ESXi is an example of a bare metal OS. Yes, any other question? Yeah, thank you very much in that case. I hope that there is no further question.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, I'll thank Institute for giving me this opportunity to present the things and communicate with the students.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. It was a really an enriching session. We learned so many things about practical concepts of cloud computing and virtualization. It was a very helpful session for our students to work with different cloud services like infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service, and virtualization part also. I again would like to thank Dr. Bhavesh Borisania sir for being dedicated and passionate about delivering a valuable technical session to our students. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. And you can also share my email address if students have the questions, and later on they can post the questions to me. Okay.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Fine.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah. Should I end the meeting now?
Yes, sir. You may leave now.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
So, students, we will meet at tomorrow morning session, 9 a.m. So, bye for the everyone. You may leave now. I am ending meeting over here.